I'm remembering what was perhaps the scariest part of Orwell's 1984, and that was Room 101. Do you remember that? And I remember as a kid or young adult reading that for the first time when Winston Smith was first threatened with Room 101. And he asked O'Brien, he said, what's in Room 101? And O'Brien looked at him and just said something to the effect, what is in Room 101, Winston, is the most horrible thing in the world. And, of course, as it turned out, for Winston Smith, the most horrible thing in the world was rats. In light of the DOJ memos that were released today, about 4 or 5 pages of which I downloaded, I think it runs about 65 pages. That's what the PDF file says when you go to print it off. When I read some of those memos today and what constituted official Bush policy and how they arrived at that policy, I just kind of sat there dumbstruck. I mean, not that any of this was new. I think we all know now that the official policy of the Bush crime family was torture. And in effect, in applying that policy, putting every single American and every single American soldier, Marine, Airman, and sailor at future risk. God help the next American military man or woman who is captured by people who are associated with organizations that had people that we tortured. It is going to be horrifying. And as far as these right-wing sniveling bastards in this country, the Republicans who still deny that the practices were torture, let me ask you something. If an American soldier had been captured, or a handful of them, or 300 of them, and put through what we have put through, or put these people through, do you think that there would be a single Republican in this country who wouldn't be screaming torture? Of course not. But Republicans are the filthiest sons of bitches ever to rise to power, all of them. And it's a shame that we have to share our democratic republic with these pigs. So we'll get into that in a little while. We also, another aspect of this is the decisions that were made in Nuremberg in Germany after World War II, and the trials subsequent to that slaughter started by a crazy right-winger named Adolf Hitler. It was decided by the 3 powers that conducted the trials. That was it 3 or was it 4? I know there were 4 powers, but I think only 3 of us. The Soviets really didn't have a legal system, did they, that was applicable to what had gone on. But several of the decisions that were arrived at by the tribunal, by the Nuremberg judges, determined that a defense could not be constructed around the idea that I was only following orders. A defense could not be constructed around the idea that, well, this was legal in Germany at the time. You know, Herr Hitler and the Reichstag passed these laws, so I wasn't doing anything illegal where it concerned Germany. And the Nuremberg tribunals came to the conclusion that that did not apply. That what the defendants were trying to do was to disestablish their culpability, or if that's a word, because they were acting under orders. I was only following orders. How many times has that been used as a punchline or in a cartoon or comedy? The Obama Justice Department under Eric Holder has now decided that the people involved, one of whom is now a federal judge, this Bybee, that these people are not to be held accountable because or any CIA people who applied the torture methods are not to be held accountable because they were only following orders and the rule of law as laid out by now Judge Bybee and other vicious sons of bitches who came on board to the Bush crime family and went to work in the Department of Justice. Now, I don't know what Eric Holder is thinking. I'm going to play the race card now because I don't know what else to do here. I don't know what else to do. I'm thinking about some of the most horrendous crimes in this country were perpetrated by whites against blacks. And some of these cases have only recently been brought to trial. The murder of the kids in the church bombing in Montgomery. Is it Montgomery? Or, no, Birmingham. The untold numbers of black people who were lynched, brutally murdered by whites. And they always escaped. And when they were brought to trial, they were found innocent by all white juries, obviously. Is Eric Holder now going to pursue these cases against people who so obviously violated the law of the land, which was you can't kill people, you can't hang people, you can't lynch people, well, you can't torture people either, Attorney General Holder. That's against the law, too. So what are we going to have here? Are we going to have a double set of laws? Eric Holder, as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States, will pursue cases involving people who broke the law, voter fraud, lynching of black people, murder and mayhem that require a federal prosecution, but where it concerns the people who not only violated the law, but took it one step further, altered the law in an attempt to make it appear that they were not violating the law. Those people are not to be prosecuted after what was determined, what we spent a considerable amount of effort at Nuremberg and a couple of years of trials to prove that if you are going to violate the law, if you are going to commit crimes against humanity, if you are going to commit crimes that are especially egregious because it strips away the victim's humanity, then by God in heaven or Satan in hell, you will pay for those crimes. That's what we established. And as a result of that, many, many German industrialists, politicians, jurists, and members of the German armed forces were sentenced to long prison terms or death by hanging. I hate to criticize Barack Obama because, I was one of those people who really felt that change was on the way and that the rule of law would be reestablished in this country. But apparently not, at least not where it concerns arguably the most vicious crimes committed by an executive branch of our government in the history of this country. I guess we could go back to the late 18th century and find some similar crimes, perhaps. But what the Bush crime family did removed the United States from the list of nations that are nations of determined by the rule of law. They've taken us off that. And now Eric Holder and the Obama Justice Department have confirmed it.